This is gonna be Nile. This is gonna be an interesting visit.
The words hung in the air of the grand foyer, heavy and sharp like the blade of a guillotine waiting to drop. Junwoo stood there, a reckless smirk playing on his lips, his eyes dancing between Maru's stoic fury and Nia's exposed skin beneath the white dress shirt. Nia felt a chill slide down her spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. She instinctively took a half step back, her bare feet curling against the cold marble floor. She had seen Maru angry before. She had seen him break a man's wrist without blinking. But this was different. The energy coming off him now wasn't just violence. It was possessiveness so thick it felt suffocating. Maru descended the last few steps slowly. He didn't rush. Kings didn't run to address the jesters. Every movement was calculated, his eyes locked onto his cousin with a lethality that would have made a lesser man run for the door. But Junwoo just leaned against the console table, twirling his keys, seemingly unbothered by the predator closing in on him. Maru stopped at the bottom of the stairs. He didn't look at Nia, but his hand shot out, wrapping around her waist and pulling her flush against his side. The heat of his palm burned through the thin fabric of the dress shirt, a brand of ownership that Junwoo couldn't miss. Nia isn't part of the visit, Junwoo, Maru said, his voice terrifyingly quiet. It was the kind of quiet that preceded a natural disaster. She is off limits. If you look at her too long, I will remove your eyes myself. Junwoo laughed, a bright, chaotic sound that echoed strangely in the tense hallway. He pushed off the table and took a step closer, invading the invisible boundary Maru had set. You've never been this protective over the staff before, cousin, he drawled, his gaze flicking to Nia's legs again. Unless she's not staff anymore. Maru's grip on Nia's waist tightened to the point of pain, but she didn't flinch. She leaned into him, instinctively seeking the protection of his solid frame. Maru didn't answer the question. He didn't owe Junwoo explanations. Go to your room, Maru ordered his cousin, his tone final. Dinner is at 8. Do not come down before then. Junwoo held his gaze for a second longer, a challenge sparking in his eyes before he shrugged. As you wish, boss. He walked past them toward the guest wing, but as he passed Nia, he slowed down just enough to whisper, barely audible, nice shirt. Nia shivered. Maru waited until Junwoo disappeared around the corner before he turned to her. The anger didn't leave his eyes, but it softened into something darker, something more desperate. He framed her face with his hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones. Go upstairs, he murmured. Stay in the master suite until I come for you. Nia grabbed his wrists. Maru, who is he? Family, Maru spat the word like a curse. A complication, but he won't touch you, I won't let him. Nia nodded and turned to head back up the stairs, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave her. The sanctuary of the mansion had been breached. The dragon had claimed her, but now another beast was circling the gates. The next few hours were a blur of anxiety. Nia showered and changed into one of the dresses Maru had ordered for her, a silk slip dress in a deep emerald green that clung to her curves like second skin. It was elegant, expensive, and completely foreign to the woman who had spent years scrubbing floors in a shapeless uniform. She looked at herself in the floor-to-length mirror, hardly recognizing the reflection. She looked like a woman who belonged in this world of luxury and danger. But she felt like an imposter. Maru was locked in his study. She could hear his voice occasionally, low and angry, speaking in rapid-fire Korean. He was handling business, managing the empire that paid for the silk on her skin. Nia wandered out to the terrace overlooking the expansive gardens. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in bruises of purple and gold. She needed air. She needed to breathe. She leaned against the stone railing, watching the shadows lengthen across the perfectly manicured lawn. It's beautiful, isn't it? Nia jumped, spinning around. Junwoo was leaning against the doorway leading out to the terrace, holding 2 crystal glasses of amber liquid. He had changed out of his white suit into casual dark trousers and a silk shirt, the top buttons undone to reveal a chest smooth of ink, a stark contrast to Maru. He walked over, extending a glass to her. She hesitated. It's just whiskey, Nia, he said, his smile disarming. I promise I didn't poison it. Maru would kill me before the body hit the floor. Nia took the glass but didn't drink. She watched him warily. Maru told me to stay away from you. Maru tells people to do a lot of things, Junwoo said, leaning his back against the railing next to her, looking out at the garden. He's used to being obeyed. It must be exhausting for him. And for you. He took a sip of his drink, his eyes sliding sideways to assess her. You know, you're not his usual type. Nia stiffened. And what is his usual type? Silent, Junwoo said simply. Women who don't ask questions. Women who don't look at him the way you do. And how do I look at him? Like you think he can be saved. Junwoo turned fully toward her, his expression shifting from playful to something sharper, more probing. Do you know what that tattoo on his neck means, Nia? The dragon. Nia gripped her glass tighter. I know it's traditional. It's a ledger, Junwoo corrected softly. Every scale, every claw. It represents a debt collected. A life taken. Maru isn't just a businessman. He's the executioner. Do you really think a man with that much blood on his hands knows how to love something without destroying it? He won't destroy me, Nia said, though her voice wavered slightly. Junwoo stepped closer. He didn't feel dangerous in the way Maru did. Maru felt like a storm. Junwoo felt like quicksand. Slow, pulling you in before you realized you were sinking. He might not mean to, Junwoo said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. But Maru gets bored, Nia. He conquers, he claims, and then he moves on to the next conquest. You're the flavor of the month, the new toy. I've seen it happen a dozen times. He reached out, his fingers hovering near her arm. I wouldn't get bored, Nia. I know how to appreciate beauty without needing to own it. Nia went a step back, but before she could move, the glass doors to the terrace shattered outward. The sound was deafening. Nia screamed, dropping her glass. It smashed against the stone, shards flying. Maru stood in the broken doorway. He looked like a demon rising from hell. His chest was heaving, his tie ripped off, his sleeves rolled up to reveal the ink poolsing on his forearms. He didn't look at Junwoo. He looked at Nia, and the look on his face was terrifying. Get inside, Maru snarled. Junwoo held up his hands. That infuriating smirk back in place. Relax, cousin, we were just chatting. I said, get inside. Maru roared, the sound echoing across the grounds. Nia scrambled past him into the living room, her heart hammering against her ribs. Maru didn't follow immediately. He stepped up to Junwoo, grabbing him by the collar of his silk shirt and slamming him against the stone railing. Nia didn't hear what he whispered to his cousin, but she saw the blood drain from Junwoo's face. A moment later, Maru stormed inside. He grabbed Nia's hand, not gently this time, and dragged her toward the stairs. Maru, you're hurting me, she cried, stumbling to keep up with his long strides. He didn't stop until they were inside the master bedroom. He kicked the door shut and spun her around, backing her against the heavy wood. His breathing was ragged, his eyes wild. I told you, he rasped, caging her in with his arms. I told you he was poison. Why were you talking to him? He came to me, Nia shouted back, finding her courage. I was just standing there. He was talking about you. What did he say? Maru demanded, pressing his body against hers, his weight heavy and overwhelming. Did he tell you I'm a monster? Did he tell you I'm incapable of feeling? He said you'd get bored, Nia whispered, tears stinging her eyes. He said I'm just a conquest. Maru froze. The anger in his face fractured, revealing a raw, bleeding wound underneath. He let out a harsh breath and rested his forehead against hers, closing his eyes. Bored, he laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Nia, I have been obsessed with you since the moment you walked into my office. I haven't slept properly in weeks because every time I close my eyes, I see you. I don't want to own you like a trophy. I want to consume you so that no one else can ever look at you again. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. The coldness was gone, replaced by a fire that threatened to burn them both down. You are not a conquest, he vowed, his voice dropping to a growl. You are the air in my lungs, and I will not share my air. He kissed her then, desperate and rough. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a reclaiming. He lifted her up, wrapping her legs around his waist, and carried her to the bed. He stripped the emerald dress off her like it was an insult, needing to see her skin, needing to mark her again. Every touch was a statement. Every kiss was a promise. He worshipped her body with a frantic intensity, erasing Junwoo's words, erasing the doubt, erasing everything that wasn't him. Later, as they lay tangled in the sheets, the room dark except for the moonlight, Nia traced the dragon tattoo on his neck. "Is it true?" she whispered. "Is it a ledger?" Maru stiffened beneath her touch, but he didn't pull away. He captured her hand, kissing her fingertips. "It was," he admitted quietly. "Every mistake, every enemy, every regret, it's all written there." He turned his head to look at her, his dark eyes vulnerable in a way she had never seen. "But the ink is my past, Nia. You are the only thing in my life that is clean. You are my future. Don't let him poison you against me, because if you leave, I won't have anything left." Nia kissed the hollow of his throat, right over the pulse of the dragon. "I'm not going anywhere." They lay in silence for a while, the peace of the moment fragile. Then, Maru sighed and sat up, the mask of the boss sliding back into place. "We have to get ready," he said, his voice hardening. "My uncle is here, and if Junwoo is playing games, his father is the referee." The dining room was a battlefield disguised as a banquet. The table was set with fine china and crystal, the chandelier casting a warm glow over the food that no one was eating. At the head of the table sat the elder, Maru's uncle and Junwoo's father. He was a small man with eyes like polished stones, watching everything with a critical silence. Maru sat at the opposite head, radiating power. Nia sat to his right, wearing a new dress, black, modest, but stunning. Junwoo sat across from her, nursing a glass of wine, his smile sharp enough to cut. The conversation had been polite, tense, focused on business territories and shipping routes. Nia stayed silent, trying to make herself small. She felt the weight of the elder's gaze on her, judging her presence, wondering why the help was sitting at the table. "So Nia," Junwoo said loudly, cutting through the quiet clinking of silverware. "Maru tells me you're adjusting well to your new role." Nia looked up, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth. "I am." "It must be quite a change," Junwoo continued, leaning forward. "From scrubbing the floors of this room to eating in it. Tell me, do you miss the uniform? I heard it was quite fetching." The table went deadly silent. The elder stopped chewing, his eyes flicking to Nia with disdain. Maru went still, his hand freezing on his wine glass. Junwoo smiled innocently. "Pass the wine, Nia. You're good at serving, right? Since that's what you were hired for." The humiliation burned Nia's cheeks. She could feel the shame rising, the reminder that to these people, she would always be the maid who slept her way up. She reached for the wine decanter, her hand trembling. "Don't." Maru's voice cracked through the air like a whip. Nia froze. Maru didn't look at Junwoo. He looked at the elder. He reached out and took Nia's trembling hand, pulling it away from the wine. He placed her hand flat on the table and covered it with his own, interlacing their fingers. The heavy gold signet ring he wore clicked against the crystal glass. "She cleans nothing," Maru said, his voice low and devoid of emotion. "She serves no one." Junwoo chuckled nervously. "I was just joking, cousin. No need to be so serious." "She sits at my right hand," Maru continued, his eyes finally locking onto Junwoo. The threat in them was absolute. "Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me, and uncle." He turned his gaze to the older man at the end of the table. "You know what happens to people who disrespect me." The elder stared at Maru for a long, tense moment. He saw the resolve in his nephew's eyes. He saw the claim. Finally, the old man nodded once, slowly. "Eat your dinner," Junwoo, the elder, commanded, "and pour your own wine." Junwoo's smile faltered. He looked at Maru, then at Nia, hate flickering behind his eyes. He poured his own wine in silence. Under the table, Maru squeezed Nia's hand. He didn't let go for the rest of the meal. By the time the dinner ended and the guests were leaving, Nia felt exhausted, drained by the adrenaline and the emotional whiplash. But she also felt something else, safe. Maru had defended her. He had claimed her in front of the people who mattered most. He had chosen her over his own blood. Maru walked his uncle and Junwoo to the waiting cars. "I'll be up in a minute," he told her, kissing her temple. "Wait for me." Nia walked up the grand staircase, her legs heavy. She felt like she had won a war she didn't know she was fighting. She walked down the hallway to the master bedroom, pushing open the heavy double doors. The room was dark. She frowned. The maids usually left the bedside lamps on. She walked in, reaching for the switch. The soft light flooded the room, illuminating the massive bed. Nia gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. On the pristine white pillow, right where Maru laid his head every night, was a pile of black fabric. She walked closer, her heart starting to pound. It was her old uniform, the one Maru had told her to burn, but it wasn't just sitting there. It had been shredded, torn into ribbons of fabric, destroyed with a violence that made her stomach turn. And stuck through the center of the pile, pinning it deep into the expensive mattress, was a large hunting knife. Nia stared at it, shaking. Under the handle of the knife, a piece of paper fluttered. She reached out with trembling fingers and pulled the paper free. It wasn't a note, it was a photograph. It was grainy, taken from a distance, likely with a long-range lens. It showed a woman standing in an alleyway, handing a thick envelope to a man with a distinct scar on his face. The woman in the photo was wearing a coat Nia owned. She had her hair, her profile. It looked exactly like her. And the man she was handing the envelope to was Kang, the rival associate whose arm Maru had broken in part 1. The door behind her slammed open. Nia spun around, hiding the photo behind her back, but it was too late. Maru stood there. He had heard her gasp. He saw the knife. He saw the shredded uniform. His face went white, then red. He crossed the room in 2 strides, ripping the knife out of the mattress and throwing it across the room. He grabbed the photo from Nia's hand before she could stop him. "Maru, it's not what it looks like," she cried, backing away. Maru stared at the photo. He looked at the date stamp in the corner. It was dated 2 days before she arrived at the mansion. His silence was louder than his shouting had ever been. He lowered the photo slowly. When he looked up at her, the lover was gone. The man who had defended her at dinner was gone. The dragon was back, and he looked at her with eyes that were dead. "Who are you really, Nia?" he asked, his voice sounding hollow, like something inside him had just died. "Maru, please," Nia begged, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know that man. That's not me, it's a setup. Junwoo." "Junwoo has been with me all day," Maru cut her off coldly. "He was in the car when this was taken." He took a step toward her, and for the first time since she met him, Nia was terrified not of his power, but of his heartbreak. "Did you come here to clean?" Maru whispered, crumpling the photo in his tattooed fist. "Or did you come here to spy?" Nia backed into the wall, shaking her head. "No, no." Maru turned his back on her. "Get out." "Maru." "Get out," he roared, smashing his fist into the mirror on the wall. Glass shattered everywhere, reflecting 1,000 fractured images of a love that had just been murdered. Nia ran. She ran out of the room, down the hall, her heart breaking with every step. She realized then that Junwoo's game wasn't to steal her. He didn't want her. He wanted to destroy Maru.